America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's go through our roll call. Mr. Zach, we'll start with you.
Zach Peters.
Frank Dirksville.
Donna Marie Needle.
Mike Van Sant.
Sean Grattan.
Jimmy Linton.
Bob King.
Melissa Thorne, town staff. Ashley Collier, town staff.
Keith Orr.
And Barney.
Barney Quinn, town staff.
I believe we have the president of council here, a planning commission member, so.
Is he here as a downtown business owner?
Here's both, actually, yes.
You gotta pick one.
So this is the part where we have open discussion. Is there someone here from the farmers market that would like to speak a bit?
We are, but I guess I'll speak for the group.
Okay.
So we can hear you. Because you talk so quiet.
I know, gotta get over that.
Hi, I'm Alice Settle Raskin. Most of you know me as the co-market master and marketing and events coordinator for the Mount Airy Main Street Farmers Market. We grew last year, you knew that, to 15 weeks and had as many as 35 vendors. 11 or 12 were part-time or full-time vendors, and the rest part-time guest vendors. So this year we're ramping up. Last year we built the market. This year we're continuing to keep that same marketplace, but we're also ramping up, having more activities like the butter aerobics, and then Ashley was talking about somebody else that a dance group and all that we've invited, so that we'll have different activities each week. I am just here to try to promote that we're doing the Marbitco grant and working with the town, with Melissa and Ashley, to get a nice grant from Marbitco, which is Maryland Agricultural Resource-Based Industry Company or corporation. And so they give grants to agricultural enterprises, anything from grants from light bulbs for a barn to solar energy grants or whatever it might be. So this one will be to brand and market the market, and do a full force thing where we'll do an every door direct mail piece, signage, things that will let the town, all of 21771, know about the farmers market. So that's where we are, and I'd like your support. We would like your support. The town would like your support. All right, thank you.
Thank you. It was a good market last year. I was down on a couple occasions, so it was nice to see it grow. Well, now we're still in business concerns, information, open session. We're going to move into a downtown parking discussion, but is there anyone here that wants to speak about the open session, or you want us to move into the parking?
Well, probably ought to, if we don't have any of that, we probably ought to go ahead and just get through the minutes,
Well, that's a good idea, Frank.
get that out of the way.
I'll just give one quick update that I sent to the mayor and council today. It came to my attention that with the new election, we have a new congressman representing the area, Congressman Jamie Raskin. Previously, Congressman Van Hollen operated a district office right here on Center Street. And as of last week, they weren't sure if they were going to keep that district office open or relocate to, I think Sykesville was one of the contenders, or another community. So I had sent something to the mayor and council today asking them to reach out, because I think it's invaluable to have a district office in town. Not to mention it brings people from across the district into our downtown. We're hoping they're spending money and time here. But anyway, the mayor was quick to act, and it looks like they're going to be at least through the current lease staying in that space.
I wonder how long the lease is.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
But that'll be good.
Yeah, that's real good. Yeah, good initiative. How about the minutes? Everybody get a chance to look at them? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll second
All in favor? Aye. Okay. So what do you think? You wanna go into parking? Or you wanna let Melissa do her staff report?
I can go after.
Okay.
Well, maybe why don't you go ahead and do that, Melissa? Just 'cause you gotta cover that ground there.
Yeah, that's fine. Alright, I was holding it back. So no one would read ahead. You wanna pass these?
There's a lot of information here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Alright. If people want them. Can you hear me? Okay. A lot going on this month. The past 2 months actually, since our meeting in November. We did bring the proposed logo designs to the town council on January 2nd for their comments. And I do know that some of these topics are on our agenda later, so I'm just gonna breeze through them. So we will chat about that, but that did get to go forward and there were some comments left. So in your packets, I've included sort of my suggested changes on their comments proposed. And my suggestion would be to go ahead and work with Missy to make those small changes. Website development, we had a consultant come in December 13th and 14th to meet with all departments in town hall and discuss the business directory, different resources that we can add onto from our current limitations with our website as it exists today, and a cool new tool with the real estate locator that I think we could use to our advantage, showing our vacant properties that are available in town. Professional development classes is another topic we're going to hit on later. We have a proposal developed for a spring series involving a wide variety of topics. I have reached out to about 6 different instructors so far, and I've heard back from 3 of them. Some topics, I want to get into interesting topics as well as the typical classes you might see at the colleges, including self-defense and tying in history to that. So I hope our businesses might find that interesting enough to come out for. And we're proposing an early morning class, so it shouldn't impede with too many of your business operation hours. If you're interested more and you're not able to stick out for later, we can talk one-on-one about that. We'll definitely let you know when we have it all planned out. 3 businesses that we have opening up: Youth Play at Backacre Circle, where formerly was the big show. Mount Airy Medical Services officially opened up over at the Mount Airy Health and Wellness Pavilion. And just recently, we lost Betty Lou's Pretzels here on Main Street. But we do have a new tenant coming in, Always a 10 Cleaning.
I met her today.
Oh, very nice. Okay, good. And so we're happy to see that did turn around very quickly, and the space will be leased. Two big events to note. Downtown Chocolate Crawl is on Friday, February the 10th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And I'm sure our businesses could tell you a lot about that and the excitement. And Rails to Trails is hosting a bag and basket bingo at the elementary school on the last Saturday in February, benefiting the Rails to Trails and Caboose project from 5 to 7 p.m. And you must purchase tickets for that. And I also heard there's a Southwest, 2 tickets to Southwest. I think you can go anywhere, a raffle to win those.
I thought I saw Larry come in.
Oh, I didn't see him. Hey, Larry. Just today, actually, Ashley was able to send out the downtown business questionnaire that you all developed. and quite a few responses were received already, and we had discussed creating a residential survey with slightly different questions targeting what the community is looking for in terms of businesses, in terms of the entire town, not just limited to the downtown community, so that when we're working through incentive programs, we can potentially target certain industries coming in. So we can talk about that as well. And flip over, I went through our comments about the mom and pop grant and developed a final draft that we can look at tonight. And again, this is a program that we would budget for, and it would begin in July of this year. And we're recommending the town put up $15,000 funding towards this program and award up to $5,000 for eligible projects. And so 3 possible awards there, but people can also apply for less than $5,000. And I also wanted to share with you a case study, the Hagerstown Revolving Loan Fund, and the success that they've had with that program. It's something that we should look into and how steps we might implement something like that in Mount Airy. And finally, a couple grants and programs we are looking forward to. The Caboose Pavilion is a project that the Mount Airy Community Fund and the town have been working towards. The Community Fund was able to draw a concept design for the pavilion and present that to the town council and to the planning commission and gain support for that project. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and get some funding through the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area grant in the amount of around $27,000. And so it is a matching grant again, so we'll have to look at the town putting up some funds towards that. But soon, we hope to hear some feedback on progress with the Caboose Pavilion. I'm looking at Larry. Thank you, Larry, for starting this project. And lastly, Main Street expansion. This was brought to our attention actually through the Frederick County Tourism Council, who is offering to make Mount Airy a Main Street affiliate program if our Main Street downtown designated area, as recognized through the state, is in Frederick County. And as it is currently, we do not have any bit of Frederick County in us. So after conversations through the Department of Housing and Community Development, who decides that designation, and meeting with MAMSA, Dick and Ellie, to discuss thoughts about how we're gonna expand the program, we decided to go ahead and draft a proposal to include all of the downtown zone as the Main Street designated area. So that will open that area up to more funding. That includes the cold storage property, the Castle Center, and as far east as Cross Street. So we don't have word back if that'll be approved yet, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. And I think it would be helpful for us, our community, to have access as a Main Street affiliate to additional funding through the Frederick County Hotel rental tax. So thank you very much.
Okay, I think there was an article in the Frederick paper about that item earlier this week.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a second.
How you doing?
So I think we'll move into the parking discussion. I'm thinking that we have a very qualified engineer here in the audience that may want to get us started, give us some ideas of what the proposal is. Barney?
So you want, okay,
I'm thinking that makes sense.
okay. I think Melissa might have a drawing.
Oh, for the offsite improvements?
Yeah,
Yes,
for
I
the
do.
offsite improvements.
That's not what I'll throw it up here. Give Give me just 1 minute. Not even. Maybe hit the link that's right at the show me the copyright. I think Barney has it.
There we go.
It's always hit or miss.
I was gonna say, you think after all this
Just go
time.
back there and start switching.
You
I
need
know.
the clapper, that's what you need.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think so. So, the town has, brought in George Bath and Associates as an architect and, Carroll Engineering for a civil engineer to work on two parts for the Flatiron building. Part one, really doesn't have anything to do with the building itself, it's the off-site improvements. And actually, the Flatiron building here, the plan is to, so far right now, we have the engineering awarded to, move forward with, demoing this building and building a large option that would kind of encompass this area here. So this is the shed property. The red shed is up there, if you're all familiar with that. The building would take part of that property. And this is Chewy's garage down here, nothing's being touched there. But there'd be more of a square building in this area. That phase two for the on-site is coming. We don't really have, good plans yet, so we're still working on that. But this is all for phase one, which is, in order to build this large option, this Park Avenue would have to be closed between Main Street and Veterans Lane, because the building would sit in that location. You'd have improved walkability from the municipal lot straight down between the existing building and the new Flatiron building. And then you'd also have walkability straight from a stairwell here in the municipal lot on this side down to Conchetta's. And then the building would be pushed back where you would gain on-street parking in front of the building on the east side of the street. You would gain a sidewalk in front of the building. And so you'd have walkability all the way around the building. And then it would include a plaza area at street level here and another plaza area at the top up here that's even with Veterans Lane. Again, you don't see all that here, that's coming, but just trying to give you a perspective of what's entailed with the building. So in order to close Park Avenue here, a couple things have to happen. Meeting with the fire company, there was concerns about the steepness of the existing cross street on the east side of Shops of Yesteryear. What we looked at was realigning Cross Street in front of the building on the west side and aligning where the existing Park Avenue connection is. And so you're basically coming through the parking lot. And what that does, it knocks through some of the parking that's up in this area. And so we looked at the whole municipal lot, Park Avenue, see how we can have a net gain, not a net loss in parking. And in doing that, we showed this as a one-way on Park Avenue between Cross Street and Veterans Lane. And a little bit of excavation in this area, put a retaining wall, and then you could have parallel spaces. And that would greatly increase the number of spaces here on the south end of the lot, which I know there's places on the south end of Main Street that are crying for parking. And so I think this would be a help. Obviously, not ideal, it's not Main Street, but it's certainly closer. And it's a level below, the municipal lot itself. Park Avenue is not as high in elevation. So it does bring parking a little bit closer. We're looking at the Steve Brown property, and taking behind the existing building, and adding maybe up to 11 spaces there. This plan shows 2 stormwater management areas, which looks like we can handle that elsewhere because downtown is such a prime real estate, you know, we don't wanna take up real estate for stormwater management. So to offset that, we can go to Watkins Park or somewhere else, Watkins is first thought, and put stormwater management to offset the stormwater management downtown. And so, that's being looked at currently. So imagine this be a few more spaces, that'd be a few more spaces. We wouldn't have to build this retaining wall here, but we would build a retaining wall here. So it'd be a retaining wall there and a retaining wall here. This area is realigned, for the parking, so we don't lose as many spaces, since we're taking away with the relocated cross street. And what that does also closes cross street right here. So this parking here, these 11 spaces will be accessed only off of Center Street. These more or less service the shops that yesteryear built anyway. That's pretty much, Center Street. So, Center Street, you have angle spaces here. That's always been a concern, because of the size of those spaces. For one, you don't have the depth on most of those spaces to have an adequate sized car, you know, sitting there. So a lot of those vehicles are sitting out in the travel lane. We've said for the longest time that those angle spaces have to go away. And, you know, I think this is the time to do it. You gotta pull the trigger and get rid of those spaces. Now, what we'll do is, these will become parallel spaces in the future. It might have to wait till this property develops in order for those spaces to come in. But this plan does show one space down here. So offset that, we're still trying to look for, open up the bank lot more, try to get a little bit more. You coming in?
Chairman here, but you take a seat. Please stay up here. Look good.
I'll wait till Barney's finished and then we're gonna do a little switch.
Mike's very uncomfortable.
7.
So,
Bye-bye now.
we'll wait that.
Oh. Wake me up. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
You can put the computer.
Barney, while your
Yeah, I have a
I'll
question.
while your
Distracted,
plan's coming
distracted.
back up,
So certainly we don't wanna lose all these spaces, not put something back, so we're looking at, trying to bring in, the bank property. It would be efficient as far as, cost-wise to pave part of the private lot and gain parking, there, so we're talking about doing something like that, to make up for that. So not including the Center Street, assuming that we end up with a wash there. We're talking about an additional 20, 30 some spaces up here in this municipal lot with these changes. And that's still with realigning Cross Street through there. So we're getting a net gain is what we're looking at.
okay. Barney, the spaces, along where the frontage is now of the Flatiron Building down along Main, they'll be parallel,
Yes.
they'd be parallel
Yeah,
spaces,
so right now you have, I think, 4 spaces for Conchetta's.
right?
The idea is to allow that to become maybe a larger expanded dining area, outdoor dining, and have parallel spaces, so that the dining's not in the parking lot, if you will.
Okay,
You'd have a raised curb and sidewalk separating that dining area from the parking, and the parking would become parallel. And our plan does show 6 spaces to come in there.
so a gain of 2,
Gain of 2 on each
okay,
street. Yep.
okay. And,
The other bit is Main Street's going to get wider.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're not gonna have that little crunch space, which is
In
a
that
big
per- in
plus.
that specific
Are the spaces
area.
gonna be there that are there now across the street from Conchetta's, or are you gonna lose those?
Across the street?
Yeah, where everyone loses a mirror like 15 times a week.
Yeah, we wouldn't take anything away.
So, but the widening of the street will rectify that, I imagine.
Yeah, so that's
But have it
why,
on both sides.
where the Flatiron is, I think if you come back to this back corner, that's about the front corner of the building. Maybe where this point is here. But we have to go back at least 20 feet to gain parking. Haddon Street, the sidewalk width, all that gets pushed back to add all that in. And then now your building would be a little bit more in line with these buildings. Not sticking out right in the middle of the road.
Specify, I think you called it the Smith Building, next to the municipal lot where the water management is not going to be at the top there.
Brown.
Yeah, what you said
Steve
you've
Brown.
done there.
So Steve Brown, yes, so the town does not own this portion here. Steve Brown does own that,
that what the
same owner as where the
repair
dump
building?
shack is.
Okay.
So he owns basically like this L here. And so we're looking at acquiring this, whether easement or a purchase or, you know, something to, for the town to be able to put parking in here.
And behind the denture repair building?
Yes.
Where the grass is, right?
Correct. And that would gain us 10 or 11 spaces. I don't know where that tree lines.
Not in addition to the total, what's the 30, 40?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's part of the
That's part of the
30-some spaces.
And
Yep.
then at the bottom, across from the garage, how many spaces will be along,
And here,
yeah, Park Street?
yeah, so you'll have angled spaces here on this side and this side.
Is
And
that street being widened, or that's just being put in where it's?
okay, so do you see where this is shaded on this side?
Yes,
This is where the curb line exists today.
it's the retaining wall.
So this is an excavated area where the shading is.
I see.
Just like this would get excavated to level it off. This whole area is excavated to remove that curb and push it back,
It's
so
one way
that
coming this way.
we would end up with 2 lanes coming down, dedicated right, dedicated
I'm-
back to Center Street.
I'm gonna ask him a question in a minute.
You're
Hey,
using all the parking right there at Center Street.
hey Barney.
Yeah.
Right
When
on
we
top
talk
of
about
the-
Center Street parking, so is this saying that we're losing just the 12 angle or all 19 spaces on Center Street?
So further up, like across from where Cross Street is, and,
Yes.
we probably wouldn't change any of that at this time, so just what's down here
With the 12.
in order to gain that turn lane.
Barney.
In your calculations of that we're gonna have the plus, is that plus even counting that we're losing?
No, so the Center Street, what we're losing there, that's not part of that calc. What we're looking at doing is offsetting that with picking up the parking down by the bank.
So are we actually gaining any additional spaces, or are we just replacing what we currently have?
So it would be a net, maybe a net gain if we pick up enough of the bank parking over the Center Street. But if you just look at the municipal lot and Park Avenue, it would be a net gain of 30-some spaces. I don't have an exact number. Last number I saw was 34 spaces.
How many can you put?
After you take out the 12, we're looking at gaining 30, or that's,
No, not including those 12.
okay, so really we're not
30
gaining
minus the
30, so
12.
really we're only gaining like
And
half of
then,
that.
I don't, I mean, we haven't really
Right.
calculated if there's others.
Think of it this way, we're gaining the 34 here, we'll gain another 12 at the bank, to offset the 12 we're losing.
Okay, but people already do park at the bank.
No, well, I mean, in the lower
Okay.
parking.
You know,
But that's just temporary, I mean, we don't know how long that's
That
gonna
would be a
be for.
temporary,
Right.
until they're ready to move forward, correct?
Okay, that's another question, so we're going to lose parking in order to do all this construction, but then we'll gain it at some time in the future, so how far into the future are we going to gain these parking spaces?
Well, we're talking about gaining all of this, if we stay to schedule, we're gonna start this spring and be done this summer. For
This
all-
spring?
This spring for this work here, correct. And that would line us for, being able to start phase 2 in the fall at the earliest.
So that means the Central Street parking is gonna be gone this spring?
I think that's what he's saying.
That would be correct.
What is the timeline for
Where's
it
the money?
to begin in the spring and to end in the summer?
To take away the
Well, so when we do this work up here, just so you know, we're not gonna take all this space away at one time. So we're gonna work in one area to add a turn lane. We're gonna work in What we'd probably do is try to get this area and these spaces, on these two sides of shops of yesteryear, try to get those added, so that we'd have a net gain to begin with. And then we would start working with Center Street, to put this turn lane in. And then we would come over, with Cross Street at the same time, work with these spaces to counter the spaces that we're losing up here. And then work on Park Avenue, would probably be the last area. And that's where you'd have the largest net gain, Park Avenue.
Is all this before the demo of the building or during the demo of the building?
The building's not even in
Not even
yet.
included.
Yep.
It's
So
phase
this
two.
is all to be done
Before the building.
as phase one, prior to any work on the building or closing Park Avenue.
So is this gonna cut into like holidays and everything? Are we gonna be going through what we went through like 2 years ago and we decided to go for the middle of Christmas?
Yeah. Again, spring and summer
I know, but then
is
you
the
just
goal.
got fall, so I
to
just
do
get
this, yes.
concerned.
There's holidays all through the year.
I'm
and-
talking about like our busiest season.
and
for
But
the Christmas.
problem is that some people's busiest season is other people's slower season. And it goes in circles. We went through that when we did 8 community forums for the previous projects. I understand that.
I'm thinking if this group in the town is considering dealing with the bank parking lot to refinish it, I live every day with the rail yard parking lot. It's number one, underused. There's always empty spaces back there. At
farmer's market.
Correct.
Well, yeah, and on a night like tonight, I think if anybody parked on Main Street, they should be, because, you know, any downtown business that wanted to stay open, anybody who comes into town hall should be not on Main Street. But I think there's a possibility of many more spaces, marked spaces, available back there. And that would be an easier fix and a quicker fix than the bank.
We've talked about that as being part of our temporary parking
Yeah.
in our study.
So if we did some improvement there instead of the bank, we could certainly do that.
Or
In
both,
addition to-
or both.
Right.
Wouldn't that be a
Yeah.
cost savings to the town
Because,
too?
you know, and then if there's other work going on, I think if we could do it in phases, you know, get one finished and then do the next one.
Well, I think the temporary parking that you're stating that we're gonna do at the bank and possibly, at where Ellie
The
is
rail yard.
definitely has to be done first, prior to anything else, so that parking is available.
Right.
And before taking spots away,
Yeah.
we wanna
I'd like to see
make
better
spots available.
signage about
Yeah.
the fact
That's
that
my
parking is
opinion.
available back.
So we'll have a phasing plan for the phase one. Even phase one will be broken down in phases. So the goal is to have a net gain all the time, to begin with, and keep it at a net gain all the way through that.
That really does sound like the goal, is that especially in terms of managing and minimizing impact on existing businesses, that from day one, the goal is no loss of capability or capacity. It's equal or greater for, in the way that you phase the phases.
Sure.
Barney, I'd like one point of clarification.
Okay?
So if you could use your pointer,
Sure.
I'm driving on Main Street
Okay?
and I want to get to those new parking spaces that are on Park Avenue. Can you show me how that vehicular path would occur?
Driving southbound on Main Street.
Either way,
You're gonna come into Center Street,
okay,
come into Cross Street, the new Cross Street,
okay.
and you're gonna come through the parking lot.
So I'm gonna have to come through the parking lot to do that,
Yep.
okay.
There was a question of the one-way on Veterans here. I really think it should be going out, because somebody trying to make a turn here, I think it's just too much of a blind spot, too hard of a turn there. So that's where we're thinking the circulation should come this way.
So,
So there'd be no parking on Veterans Lane at all?
Well, you still have those couple spaces there. I mean, we wouldn't change anything. It's just, you know, right now, there's nothing saying which way it goes, but it's only wide enough for one car.
so at the,
But there'll be more traffic on it,
so at the entry into the parking lot, into the main parking lot,
Up here
no, south, there.
and there, yeah,
Uh-huh. Well, and then over at Veterans.
yes.
So now I see a one-way arrow pointing south. And so then from that same intersection, is that just one way then going north?
Yeah, so.
Okay.
This would just split it, you can go
Okay.
south, you can go north.
Okay,
You can't come the opposite way.
okay, okay,
Is
all
that
right.
gonna be widened or to accommodate through traffic through a parking lot there?
What, here?
Yep.
Well, this is already wide enough for two-way traffic, it's 24 feet width, the normal parking aisle. So each of these are at least 24 foot wide.
And now, and so so if you go into that parking area on Park, is that open egress one way back onto Park Avenue where the cross street relocation? Yes, there.
Okay,
That's gonna be open?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, definitely. So-
Okay.
So that'd be open, again, you'd have do not enter signs here, so
Right.
if somebody coming down Park
Right,
wouldn't go in there, they would turn and come through cross. If they wanna park in this area and they're coming down Park Avenue, again, they'd come through the parking lot. So your circulation is this way, and then it's also that way.
okay.
How wide's the opening up at the cross street end of it? Yeah, right there.
Here, this aisle here for the angle space is 18 feet.
No, okay, but you're saying there'd be a do not enter, so you cannot come down the wrong way?
Yeah.
Is that, how wide is that? Is that still gonna be?
Curb to curb, I think, I can't read it from here, but I think if I remember correctly, it's 20 feet. From curb to curb, I think it was.
19.
So it'll be open.
Yeah.
I have a question about, you mentioned two stormwater management, are they existing or?
No.
These do not exist. So Carroll County is gonna require us, because we're making alterations to this municipal lot, they're gonna require us to do stormwater management for that lot.
Right.
And so, but the idea is, this is just prime real estate downtown.
Right.
There's no sense in wasting
You said
space.
something about, offset it with Watkins Park or something, I
Yes,
don't
yeah,
understand what's that mean?
So as long as you're in the same, territory
Yeah.
for your stormwater, you can locate it at a different property and offset some, paved areas that don't have stormwater management now, like the tennis courts, the parking lots. You can offset the improved stormwater management for that area to offset the project here.
Like a credit?
A credit, yeah. You're basically setting up a bank.
It won't be doing any good to the rain that's running down the street, will it?
No, so we do have to
It just
control that.
shows that it's a crop.
Agreed.
Shows what? Yeah,
You don't have to tell them.
that's the dumbest thing.
Shift it over here, we don't already need it.
Yeah, the
Get it
rain,
over here.
the rain will know to come over here. It'll just fall there.
With the bank, I know the town is gonna, the idea is that the town will pave that area, right? And make that suitable for a park, right?
That's the goal, right, and we're still working with the owner. to
Right.
get there. Yeah.
Do we have any, like, idea as far as where the owner's intentions are in the future? Like where he is as far as, where he or she is?
I don't wanna speak for him, so I don't know, I can't say. All I know is we had an approved plan 10 years ago,
Yeah.
so.
And like, even if we lost, let's say if we lost, let's say if he goes forward with his plans, we still are net gaining 30 to 40 spots in the municipal area, right?
Yes, yeah, again,
But
we
losing-
can't
losing
fix Center Street, they're really not legitimate parking spaces. The goal is that we would end up with parking, parallel parking all along the street in the future. But that would be with that development, I don't see the town put that in, because there's a lot of grading that would have to happen there.
We just kind of threw in those parallel spaces, what was it, maybe 10 years ago? If even that far.
Probably 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, on Park. I mean, on Center Street.
Yeah,
That
further
was,
up.
that was a recent addition, just to
Yes.
try to cram some more parking in.
Correct.
Our guys just went out there and threw down some asphalt, and said, park here,
Yeah.
because we needed spaces. But they're not,
But
they're not great.
from what I've heard, I think everybody agrees that, I know the gun shack really utilizes this parking here for sure. So if we can offset something close by, that's great. But there is a lot of space in the rail yard and in the bank that really is underutilized. That I think we can offset it with a reasonable
going into town, we're still gonna use that alleyway, correct? Is that right? Veterans Road. Right, the alleyway
For
between the two
walking?
buildings? Yes.
All right, with the new building, all right, so here's the Flatiron building, here's the shed. The reason we need the shed property is this building's gonna sit on both the town property and that shed property. And you would have improved, stairs coming down between this existing building and that new building. You'd have your, maybe in the amphitheater and plaza out here. You'd have stairs coming down the backside. Also, basically, give a direct route, here's a set of steps coming from Municipal Lot, come through and come directly down to Conchetta's into that area. You would also be able to enter the building from the Veterans Lane and go down one level with an elevator. And so all ADA compliance, and be able to be on Main Street.
Say if someone's parking, I'm sorry, right here, in the new area where you're gonna be excavating, right up here, we're still gonna have that passway between the two buildings, right?
Yeah, so here's
Are we
the,
gonna improve upon that? I think that's not like the most.
well, here's the steps here.
Yeah, and it
And
goes right
there's
through
that
there.
area
Yeah.
coming through.
Is there any plans to improve upon that area there?
Not for this project, not saying that we couldn't add something if you knew what you
I always
wanted
felt like
to
those
improve.
stairs are like, just for me, little steep, maybe
So-
if we had more lighting, it might be a better.
So the only way for it to be ADA accessible is through this Flatiron Building elevator?
Well,
Is
only
that-
because the change in elevation, if you follow the slope of a street, you're still ADA compliant even though you're higher than 5% running slope.
So there's still gonna be a ramp?
So, no, because, you're gonna have steps coming between the building, it's just too steep to
So,
make it ADA compliant from here to there.
I guess my question
So-
is gonna be, is at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening, is that building open?
The idea is that we would have a lobby open on the first and second floor that would stay open, we'd have to determine, but maybe 24 hours, that somebody can come in one level, go out the other level.
It is like an elevator parking garage. You can, you know,
Mhm.
anytime
I was
you
just
want.
curious if the town was leaving the building open or not.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be the whole building.
And it would be isolated, that would be
Yeah.
isolated from the rest of the building, you know, be secured. So the idea is to have that, and also, I think we talked about public restrooms as well. That public restroom on Main Street. You have the area going. I know the stores love their people come in after the restroom.
All the time.
God.
Barney, on Center Street, aren't we having some delivery parking for certain hours of the day, like we used to have on Main Street?
Yeah, now, we'd have to see if this space would allow it for the time being. I still think that, kind of over, just almost in front of the town hall, in front of the existing plaza, where we used to have, I think it was 6 to 10 or 8 to 10, hours for
6 to
parking.
10, yeah.
I think you could still take 2 parking spaces and do the same thing that we had before. To me, it seemed to work. But I don't know if that worked for everybody. There was a loading zone
Yeah, right.
on the west side of the morning.
In the morning.
Yeah, almost in front of town hall.
It doesn't matter, they're gonna park wherever they wanna park anyway, if you just watch people on town, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what zones
They,
you put
they
there.
tended to use it, and they were starting to, adjust their hours for coming downtown.
I understand
It
that.
was
but
helping.
Look at any of the food trucks, look at UPS trucks, look at the
There are
FedEx
some that will
trucks.
just use
They don't
whatever.
care, they park wherever
They
they
park
want.
wherever they want, and I think it's a great idea, I just don't know how
Yeah.
smart it is to take up 2 spaces for a thing that never is gonna happen.
Again, it's only to 10 AM.
And one of the advantages of
the
having
streets
our own
empty
police
at 10
force
a.m.
is we will be able to direct them to do that. Right now, we can't direct the state police to do anything. They take their orders from Westminster.
Barney, what is the anticipated, cost for phase 1?
All right, anticipated cost, the last number I had was about, 2.25, 245,000.
Which would, does that include everything you described, excluding probably the bank parking, right?
Yes.
Is that still?
Yeah, it basically the stuff that you see up here,
Even the purchase of that property?
not the purchase of the property.
So that's just how many parking spaces?
That's without the stormwater, I think you can get 11 spaces in there.
Have they been approached, Steve Brown, or they,
Yes,
did they have
yes,
indication that
Yes,
they,
we're in discussions with all that.
that they will wanna,
And I think the shed is done, isn't it?
The shed's pretty much done, it's
Yeah.
just, it's almost.
I'm not sure
finalized.
if we've settled yet,
that's
but.
not, the shed you're talking about here is not Steve
No,
Brown.
the shed's the this end.
No, I'm talking about the
Right,
other
and
building.
Steve Brown up there, that is very, very much in discussions and
Right.
very well in the process. So we anticipate that happening.
And there's one more with, up here with Ross. This is part of Ross's building, part of this, and right here where these spaces are. So that would be another, discussion.
Barney,
Yeah.
wild and crazy question. Given the elevations that are going on in that municipal lot now versus the area that's around it, it's by far the highest.
Yes.
Okay. Would it be price prohibitive to actually excavate and have 2 layers
Well,
of
that's-
municipal lot?
That's the future. That's the future, is I see it, and the parking, committee did come up with this, I think was the second, favorite, that a garage would eventually be here, where we would excavate down to at least the veterans level, veterans lane, and then you'd have a garage above.
Since it's so much higher.
And it wouldn't be
seems
much
like-
it wouldn't be much higher than what it is today.
The problem with that is during construction, you lose absolutely all parking.
Everything.
So it's just not something that, I mean, I saw that the parking committee kind of went away from that because of that reason. I was like, that makes a lot of
Morning,
sense.
does the improvement,
Well, it's-
include the egress between the parking lot and down to South Main Street? Is that part of the triangle building or part of the parking? Where you're talking about easy egress getting down to the firehouse building? Is that going to be easy done before, during, after, you know what I'm saying?
That on street, Main Street?
No,
parking?
the egress from the new parking lot.
Stairs.
Down, you said that staircase.
Oh, the
easy down
stairs.
to Conchetta. Is
That wouldn't happen until the building's done.
Okay, so that's not part of this phase.
That's
right?
late phase
That's
two.
phase two, okay.
Yeah.
Barney, from the 2.25 million.
That equates to about $66,000 for
So 225 divided by 30, would be about,
Less than 10.
yeah, less than 10,000.
You're thinking of 2.25, it's not 2.25.
Sorry, 225,000.
Oh, I thought you said 2.25.
I did say
2.25.
2.25 hundreds. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, it's good. I mean, I have.
Please don't print that.
Everyone on a car.
I think Larry's got a question.
Yeah, Larry.
My question is, I mean, once you start down this road and you close off Park Avenue,
Yes.
then you are kind of committing for what's gonna happen to the flat area.
All right, so that's a good question. Can I stop you there?
Let me say one more thing,
All right, go ahead.
and then you'll probably correct me on it. Is, you know, what happens if we decide that the Flatiron Building is not gonna be the grandiose number 6 plan,
Right.
that was discussed, what if we scale that back?
Did everybody hear that question?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, because it's really an important question. Phase one, what I see is a benefit all in all, because it's gonna improve our parking. It's gonna provide the improvement here of Center Street that's gonna have to occur prior to Center Street going through to 27. So that's the improvement on this side of Center Street. And you have, added parking in these areas. Phase one does not close Park Avenue. However, with the one-way coming this way, I guess somebody could come down here and come down this way, but probably we would make that one way.
Oh, really? They turn left and go to
My thought is, this doesn't show any change to closing Park Avenue as phase one. It's really phase two. Going to be the very first thing that happens for phase two. So let's just say, if phase two was decided not to move forward, you would still make improvements without taking anything away. Now, what I would suggest is that if that were to happen, you would make this a one-way up and not have the lane coming down. And that was talked about for a long time as well, is having that one way. And so one of the problems coming down is trying to look over your shoulder to the left, and you got this crosswalk right in front of you. People start to gun it as soon as they see no cars are coming, and then, the people in the crosswalk. So there's really a benefit not to have cars coming down, but to keep it open going up, you could keep that until phase 2's ready.
The mirror works every now and then.
Yeah.
It's not sure. Look at yourself.
When the box truck comes
I've
in,
seen that
The
use
truck,
before.
it seems to be more them than now. I mean, I understand it's a solution for what needs to happen at the time, but yeah.
Yeah.
How much town money is estimated to be going into private property improvements? Second question, have the final numbers for phase 2 come back yet? I wasn't at the last town council meeting, I'm not sure if those numbers were discussed at that meeting or not.
Okay.
And then, third question rather, the, Brown building, I think it's Steve Brown.
Yes.
Yeah, so that grass area right now belongs to the owner of the gun shack, and that's what's being negotiated for purchase by the town.
Correct. So I don't really want to comment on the costs because we're under negotiation that's happening behind closed doors now, for acquiring property.
I'm saying the cost for paving the bank building and possibly repaving, Ellie's lot, I don't know what it's called.
The rail yard.
Yeah, until we know for sure how much, area we're talking about, I don't know. I haven't done enough up there, but it's not gonna be a terrible amount of cost to gain a lot of parking spaces. So it's gonna be less than 5,000 a space for sure.
Why aren't we just paving her lot first and taking care of what is already there before
Again, the phasing plan is gonna come up and we're gonna do everything we can to gain spaces before we take away.
Yeah,
Yep, I agree with you.
that's where
I think there could be 40 cars fit in the rail yard.
So let me finish answering his questions. So this building, was estimated at $3,075,000, I think originally. We haven't really changed much for the on-site right now.
My
But the
understanding
design's
was-
not done, so right now, I'm not seeing any difference in that cost just yet for phase 2. but-
The 300,000 and change that was spent for the fuller drawings or, I mean.
For the design.
Right, for the design. Is that completed yet?
No, so.
When is that expected?
So we're looking at all right, so phase 1 is part of it, okay? Phase 2, we're looking at a 30% design, maybe in the February, to have a community forum. And so that everybody can take a look at it and, look at it together.
And the costs will be prepared by then?
And we have some estimates for that, yes. Did I miss a question? Is there one more?
No.
Okay.
Well, that's good to hear. I think there are a lot of people that are still in the school of thought that the closing of Park Avenue, and the demolition of the Flatiron Building, are generally just poor choices. In this phase 1, you said it would still have the possibility of remaining a one-way up Park Avenue, coming off of Main Street?
Hidden south,
Yeah,
right?
Yes, yeah, we're not changing anything, we're stopping the flow coming down Park, so it might make sense to just go ahead and make that a one-way, as part of phase 1, at the end of phase 1.
Why hasn't that been
Well-
working?
Why hasn't it been done? Because the fire company really needs this access. This was something that we did meet with the fire company, and they showed a lot of concern for coming this route, or going all the way out to 27 and back in. This is their fastest route to get out to the.
But you're saying
senior
that's how
center.
it would be, I'm saying, why hasn't it been closed the other way?
Oh, the other way? It just hasn't been decided to do it.
And when is it expected that Center Street will meet 27?
Yeah, it's a good question, so a couple things. Yeah, so there's a couple ideas on that. One is, there is a developer that seems very serious for the property. And so maybe in the next 5 years, something might be moving forward with that. there's an opportunity that the town could take that and forward fund that and charge back to any improvements on Center Street. That idea is out there too. Because of all the improvements that we're doing and looking at already, I don't think the town council is ready to spend that money just yet. But again, I don't wanna speak for them.
The planning commission is developing an MXD, a multi-use, zoning, so we're right at the very end of that. It'll probably take it another year before it's approved, if it is approved by the council and becomes part of our master plan changes. So things are working in different areas at the same time that will complement each other someday. We just don't know when it's gonna be.
So this is the first remediation in terms of really what can have an effect.
Sure.
Well, actually, Barney, to answer one question that we had, which was why we have not closed the park going north in the past. And the reason we haven't done that is because cars come down Park and they have to have some way to get out, unless we're gonna turn all of Park into one way where the houses and buildings and the offices are. Right now, it's not a good cut through. Once we build this, then we can close Park because there will be a more decent way to get across it.
So is this,
So we can't really close Park.
is
all
this
the way
new
down.
cut through wide enough? 24 feet is wide enough for two cars going either
Yeah.
direction?
It's same as Maine.
Constant
Yeah.
traffic, okay.
Yeah, so 24 feet, two 12-foot lanes, that's the state highways.
Okay, I
State
just
highway
was curious, I
standard.
don't build roads, so.
Right.
Barney, why cut off Cross Street from being a complete flow-through just for the gain of a couple parking spaces? I don't see
Up
the
here?
advantage, yeah. That seems, then you're gonna, anybody coming in off center, there'll be a sign, certainly no outlet, but you're boxing it in.
Yeah, so there's opportunity. I know the owner, that owns the Shops of Yesteryear and the other certainly has expressed some interest in being able to combine that and make that all one parcel. And so there might be some negotiating room for, or partnering to allow them to do that, for us to maybe have some other space or something. So it's again under negotiation, but that might be one of the reasons why we would close it off. You don't need this opening, since we're putting Cross Street here.
Forcing people to come into the municipal lot and cutting down the middle to get to veterans, that's very tight, like even during the day, you know, cause that's where I park every day.
Sure.
It's hard to imagine any more people, cause when you're coming, towards the Shops of Yesteryear, you can't really see who's coming from the left or from the right, right? So when you're driving east and you're right there where the point is,
Right.
it's very hard to see from the left or the right who's coming. So if all traffic from Center Street is being, diverted there, that might make things pretty tough.
That was my point earlier, actually, with how wide that is, because especially when you throw in people who are trying to park, backing out, I don't know.
It won't be a real through way.
Right, when
It'll
you
just
park, you
be-
cut it
yeah.
wide to pull in.
It's like running Route 27 through the Walmart parking lot between Taylorville and Placer. That's about what that adds up to.
All right, so
I
right
think
now
it's
you
just
have an island back here, in this area. You could take away
I
these
don't
two,
think there's an island there.
there's a little curved island right here,
Okay.
up here, at the end of this road. There's not one at the end of this road.
Oh, I see,
You could take away these two spaces and put an island there, so you would have, net loss of two spaces, which would greatly improve the visibility from what's coming from the left. So that's certainly an option. One thing this plan also did, and it's not as easy to see. As you come down here, if there's no parking down here, people had to back up. So this opened up this area right here.
People pull through the handicap spots.
Yes, but if somebody's parked in the handicap, they can't pull through. So this takes away those handicap spaces, those are being relocated. And this is a pull-through here, same thing down here, this is a pull-through right here. So nobody gets trapped as you come down and.
So the bike parking and the handicap spots are removed.
Yeah, so the bike's not shown here, that's not something that we've commented on yet, but, there'll be areas that, maybe in this area, since we're gonna lose that stormwater management, gain these two spaces, you could probably put some bicycles here or a couple other places.
concerns between you and Don?
Yeah, I got a lot of them, but I don't know whether I want to spend.
Colorful commentary is welcome.
Barney, didn't, at one point, didn't, the town sit down with the fire company and do something with all these corners and curves and all that kind of stuff to bring up the standards so they can get the trucks through there?
Yeah, so that, this is meeting, what those concerns were, so they make these turns here, come across, come through and go out.
So that the loss was just seconds more than anything else.
Yes, more or less.
Rounded corners and reduced grade.
Right.
Yes.
We had, Ben and I were talking back here, and, there's a lot of changes talked about here, a lot of construction, a lot of mess, which sounds like, because of here, we can take 2 spaces away there, and a
Right.
net gain of, I'm thinking now 13 spaces after we're finished this whole plan. I'm pretty sure, and I'm not, I don't wanna speak for all of us, but we're all small businesses here. And I don't think we're gonna survive this.
Yeah, well, again,
I'm being honest.
sure,
I
sure.
mean, we know how the economy is. You close down Center Street, you have a whole bunch of construction, you have now lost your whole downtown businesses because we're not gonna be here. It's just the way it is. So just keep that in mind when you make these plans, because a lot of us will not be here. We will not be able to survive being shut down for months or being disrupted for months. Because people won't come down here if there's construction, even if it's, oh, well, it's over on Center Street. It still affects the whole thing.
And this is at the point where I think I'll step in here, and changing gears slightly, but paralleled with everything that everybody said here to some extent. See, we did a parking study, Melissa, if you pull up what we did, so bear with me just a little bit. So we did a parking study down here, in this town, and we came up with possibly 6 optional places where we could put permanent, long-term, and potentially useful, structures of some kind to benefit the town businesses and the customers that need to access this, in a safe and, easily accessible manner. And, just to show you briefly the 6 on the
Okay.
map. We came up with 6 spots in town, that we thought might work, as locations. One was behind, or off to the side of, Buffalo Beer and Wings and down there where the old firehouse is, which would potentially benefit, that area down there to some extent. But we didn't find that really, too beneficial to
Frank?
the majority of the town.
The plan that I've seen for this,
For what? Oh, that, yeah.
has, for this particular spot, has a 2-level garage at the back that connects up to Park Avenue.
It had a,
I mean, I've seen the plans.
yeah, and that was the one that.
So it goes all the way to Park, and it's got 2 levels to the parking structure, so it actually
Correct.
gives you
It would,
more
it
than
would,
what's shown there.
it would benefit, it would tie in a little bit to the municipal lot.
Right.
But there
Frank,
again,
Can you take the pointer?
Hmm?
Can you take the pointer?
Oh.
Give us a perspective.
Well, I'm showing you exactly where it is, it's right here.
Well,
Right there.
let me have the
Yeah,
plan.
let Frank have it. That was part of the
Okay,
parking
so,
study also.
so that would, so this structure here, is where the existing, parking is now, which is fine, as it is, but there again, with the 2nd level going in here, but he also had a plan that showed a building here in this corner, as well, on the plan that we have.
Well,
But anyway, it'd be a two-level parking, but we felt that that it was not going to benefit, it would be beneficial for the Park Avenue area and for any areas around here, near the church. But we didn't find it very, useful, for any of the other areas up along the South Main Street side. And it was a fairly tight, area to work with. And construction-wise. Then, the second site we looked at was the municipal lot. Of course, what you've seen already. And this we felt would be, the number 2 site. Well, would be our second choice as far as sites go. If we had to, out of the 6, this would be the second one, our second choice. And the reasons were fairly numerous for it. The town owns it already. It's fairly central to the downtown zone. Our intention was it would be a 2-level structure in this area here, and we would, assuming there was about 100 spaces there already, we would actually be adding another 100 spaces to it. The lower level of it would be down on the Veterans Lane level, so that would help improve the accessibility toward Main Street. So that could be some benefit there. And of course, being vertical construction, you're gaining another 100 spaces, so there's a cost savings in going up naturally. It would be very attractive parking for the businesses on and adjacent to Center Street, and also to the businesses on the Park Avenue side. And of course, the back side of Main Street would get some benefit from it. And obviously, it's a familiar location, so people would know where it was, and it'd be fairly easy to deal with. And obviously, we're planning long-term, so when Center Street gets developed,
Right.
you know, all these spaces here will probably be occupied by the adjacent buildings, either Park Avenue related or Center Street related. And in particular, our view is that you need to front the streets, your business streets, with the businesses, because that's where all the real estate value is. So, the Brown property here should be developed, with a storefront. The Ross property here would be developed with storefronts or commercial of some kind. And when you do that, they will not have parking available for the most part for those sites. So where are they gonna park? They need to park here, all right? So they will occupy almost all the parking that you can imagine that would be put there. And that's why we were wanting to plan for at least another 100 spaces in that area. Obviously, we weren't taking in, adjusting Cross Street the way it's shown, because if you do Cross Street as it's planned now, that will not make the construction of a parking structure very easy to do. My thought would be at least to take down the yesteryear's building here, give them this part of the street, Cross Street, all right, let them build over there, move basically all his structure this way, and you move Cross Street up so it's more up in this area, all right, to get it away from wherever the buildings would be built. Because as the plan that Barney has now, you'll not get 200 spaces up here on this level, nor will the access to it work very well, because Cross Street's coming across there too tight against that building when you work your way over there toward Park Avenue. So I don't find this layout very conducive to that, which means you'd have to reconstruct or deconstruct what you've already paid for with this plan, to do all that. So anyway, we found that site, very conducive to a structure, and certainly with the completion of Center Street, it will be fully occupied in an extremely short period of time. And yes, during the construction of this, it would interfere with businesses on Main Street at that time. So that's why we chose a number 1 site, which was to be the Esplanade in back of here along Hotel Street.
Do you want me to flip to that?
Excuse me?
Should I flip to that?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's gonna take a couple more slides.
Okay.
Computer's running slow.
There you go.
Now, is that?
I think that's
Did I
it,
go
right?
too far?
Yeah, okay.
No, that's it.
Yeah, that's it, okay, so, our vision was to build some type of parking structure back here. At this point, because it's the only one that's envisioned, we'll call it the Esplanade structure that I had in mind, but it certainly can be made, designed differently and done in different forms, but, the attempt that we had at that time was to take and put something back there that did not impact the businesses that are existing to any degree, and would offer convenient, safe parking for customers so that they could be utilizing the Main Street businesses and while anything else is being built or constructed elsewhere. So, and this is still fairly simplistic in design, but basically, where Hood Street is, it would be, you'd come in here and it would be a one-way flow all the way up to the railroad right of way, and you come out there, and this showed just a single level structure with 67 spaces. And those would be at a level that would be comparable to Main Street's level, street level, so that you would then have elevated walks to get you over in between buildings. You've got a couple places where that could happen. You could also make it so that the people could get into the building directly if you wanted to. But anyway, this doesn't really impact the structures that are back there. Certainly construction can go on and not have hardly any impact on neighbors around there other than usual noise and that type of thing. And it's elevated. Being elevated, you still have full parking underneath all of this structure as well. Of course, you can't do that while it's being built, but obviously it would be available for parking needs as well. Now, it's not to say this structure couldn't be made a lot bigger, because you could go back over here over the Von Eyck area and build a much bigger structure if you wanted to. You could potentially take a building or so here and create parking in this area. But there again, I don't like the idea of impacting business frontage, which is your prime real estate. But anyway, this was our intention, so that build this first, all right, so that we can keep the businesses going in downtown Mount Airy, and then work on the municipal lot with whatever else you had in mind up there. Hopefully it would be a parking structure that would be a one, you could build it once and be done with it. Because we didn't know about this plan, obviously, at the time we created our parking study. The other spots that we had laid out included the bank parking area. We looked at that as a potential site for a parking structure deck. We found that to be a little bit small. Yeah, right, yeah, that area there, we found that to be a little bit small. It would be, the deck, let's see, what was it would add about 50 spaces, potentially. But we pretty much felt that once the Scranton buildings were built here, they would pretty much occupy most of that, structure. So, it's got a limited benefit to the rest of the town, so we weren't, too sure it was worth pursuing at this time, obviously. And of course, that would have to be, dealt with through the owner of the property anyway at this point. And then the, one other spot was a cold storage, which we, at the time, didn't, feel it was worth, reviewing that, because there again, a developer would more than likely deal with that when they built whatever they were building back there. And apparently something is in the works with that at this point anyway. So the only other spot was the rail yard property, which we did look at, this area in here somewhere, building a potential, structure in there. As well, there again, it's privately owned, and at this point, it would be very hard to determine how anything would lay out in there, particularly for a multi-level structure, on that, so we just felt that that wasn't gonna, do much, for us as far as finding a way to deal with it at this point in time. So basically, in a nutshell, municipal lot and a structure built, along Hotel Street there, we felt were gonna be a long-term benefit to the town, and be the best investment, they could make, to promote, bringing customers into town with accessibility and parking, visibility and all that, in the foreseeable future. And, that's where we were basing, our analysis, at this point, with not being professionals, but being, I think, knowledgeable enough about the town and how things are going down here, that we do need these as far as long-term structures. But they're gonna be a major investment, on the part of the town, no question, and that's something that has to be dealt with, obviously.
Can you put the Esplanade back up?
Yes.
No, we didn't have a number on the Esplanade, what it would.
I ballparked a rough number of 5 million, but that could have been more than you needed.
What's the plan to get from Maine to this end? Because the intersection at Hood is absolutely terrible.
Exactly.
And at this end, it drops you off, on the rail line. How does it then get back out to Main Street?
Well, this comes out right there where people are parking now, just on the opposite side of that warehouse building.
Okay, so basically, there'd be, I guess, an access road next to Ben's. So
Yes.
Next to
Right.
Ben Goose, okay.
And then you just dump right back out on Main Street. You'd stop there at the intersection.
Hey Frank,
Hmm?
how much parking are you gaining back here? You didn't mention that.
67.
67?
With this structure, it's 67.
And what's at the Hood Street end, because
Now, well,
that's a terrible intersection now.
no question, and that would have to be widened, to deal with that, no question. I
So
mean,
we'd have to take down either York Automotive or the thrift shop.
correct,
Okay.
yep,
And I guess, and this also goes across, looks like York's parking areas where he parks all his cars now.
that's correct.
So essentially
He's still underneath there, that's where he is with all his stuff, right
He
there.
owns- Yeah, he owns both the buildings.
Right.
Well, and it's also gonna pack the house, because it looks like whoever owns the house there is gonna be looking at a parking deck.
Yes.
Whoever owns these houses here are gonna be looking at a parking deck.
But what would happen back there in the long-term scheme of things is, all this gets redeveloped. These properties, these buildings would come down, they would be rebuilt, as new modern buildings, which would have more purpose, for retail or commercial than they do now. And back here as well, and our vision, this area here becomes a mixed-use, commercial area right back in here. So these properties would probably change anyway to some degree because of the upscale use of the properties from residential to some type of mixed use.
Now, why couldn't you create access? There's a gap between where Betty Lou is and where the printing company is. Why couldn't we, with the new Flatiron building, we're moving the street back, we're making it wider, we can make a better intersection with better visibility on either side and create the access, instead of being off of Hood Street, create the access from there. Would that not be, you're at ground,
Spaces, right?
Probably
you
not.
would lose,
Reduce it down to like 50.
you would lose 50 spaces if you
Probably.
created.
Oh, no, 2.
60 to 50, wouldn't you guess, right?
Yeah, at least
Okay.
20. at least 20
But you're saving money because you're not tearing down a building.
Well,
But that building is not savable. It need, not salvageable. It's worth rebuilding.
Okay.
It's not in good
I-
shape.
Which
Got it.
building is, which building?
Of knowledge on the state of the buildings.
Well, the thrift shop would have to go if we're gonna use Hood Street. And I think Hood Street is a natural outlet. It's already a street there, as it is. Yes, it's too narrow. But if you bump back the thrift shop about 20 feet, then you've got more than enough area and visibility to make that work as far as an entrance there. And then that building that was the thrift shop obviously gets rebuilt to occupy all the area that's there.
One thing that, at least for me, is if we would, where I could see some benefit in this, is if we were to actually take it all the way over to Prospect and widen it, make it two-way. The advantage to that would be you would actually gain a Main Street bypass when we have festivals and we close the downtown.
I actually
You could
thought about that, but I
You could
thought that,
actually use it.
I actually thought about that, but I thought that was getting way out there.
Well,
I didn't think people
but
even wanted.
that would get us, but we've always needed a bypass to Main Street.
I agree.
Yeah.
That would give us that.
What kind of time frame? Like, just say this would be the one that everybody went with, like, what time frame? Like, years are we talking?
It would take 3 years at least, I think.
Let me ask a question as, so who here owns a downtown business on Main Street? Okay, so how many of your people, where do they park? Do they park in the municipal parking lot or do they park on Main Street?
We park in our lot.
We park in our lot.
We park in my lot.
But I can tell you, when it gets
Your
busy,
customers.
when it gets
Yeah.
busy, we see our customers leaving.
That's exactly.
So now let me ask, so like, what I'm trying to get a feel for, and this is just me being a healthy guy, come down and patronize the area here. Don't break this, but I don't really like the municipal parking lot to come to downtown. It just doesn't work for me, and I know for someone elderly wouldn't do it. What I like about the Esplanade is this, that it's on the level, right? So you realize that they're not walking stairs, they're walking on the level. You see, so it's gonna be a raised.
Well, that's like during,
platform.
at lunch for us, we get elderly people, we get a lot of kids, a lot of families,
Right.
and they're not gonna park at the municipal.
Right,
and
right.
Well, they don't now, so there's no reason for them then.
Right.
Because there's really no, during most of the times of the day, there's really no problem finding parking up in the municipal lot. It's the fact that people don't, our customers don't wanna use
Right,
it.
exactly.
That's like the thing. I mean,
Especially if you're
we're
popping to
looking
get
for,
something for
we're looking for alternatives, but at the same time, we're not utilizing what we have because it's not gonna be suited to what we need it for.
And I do also feel, and this is just my opinion, I'm speaking as myself, like, I do feel like as Center Street is developed, the municipal parking lot will become valuable to
Oh,
the
yes.
Center Street building.
So we're putting the car
Essential.
48 there, I mean, before the
Right,
war's
that's
out.
absolutely,
That
absolutely,
doesn't
right,
make
yeah,
any sense.
you know, this is me not speaking as the chairperson of the EDC, who showed up a half an hour late.
That's right, Mike's in charge.
Anyway, so I like that view, that's not, yes, it's a lot of money, but I mean, I think, you know, it's beautiful, and just incidentally, for background on this, Frank, who is, we're all moms here, space, put all his money up for this, just as a design. So I think we're putting your name on, is that all we're gonna do, is that? what we're gonna do?
That my name won't work anywhere.
Frank Trump.
Oh, Lord, it's called
Memorial Parking
Frank has
Esplanade.
been dreaming about this for like, what, a decade or something like that? Yeah.
And one thing you have to think through, the reason Barney has designs for the work of the municipal lot is because that is gonna have to be done anyway.
It is.
As part of what happens at the Flatiron area.
Yeah,
So that's why something's gonna be done there, and that's what's driving that over there right now.
How far out are we on the Flatiron?
Well, I think Barney said earlier, next spring.
No, they'd be starting on the fall.
For the phase one, phase
At
two
this
is probably
point,
next year.
there's been no vote in the
That's
council to
that's,
take
that,
that.
Right.
yeah, that is a good question, so,
There hasn't been a vote.
when is the
I was
vote
thinking-
supposed to happen?
When
We do have to
whenever we
provide an
come back
alternative
with
for
an
you all.
engineering
We haven't
study
seen the
that
plan
gives
yet.
us-
Well,
No one has
Okay,
addressed
so-
what Helen has said here yet. I mean, you kind of just slept over it. This would provide what the South Main Street merchants need, would be, while this is built, it's not gonna hurt us while you all do the flat iron thing, because this is already done.
Yeah.
So as a merchant, I'm sure it's not gonna weigh anywhere with you guys, but you guys are doing it in the wrong order. This should be done first. This should be done absolutely first. Because you are gonna lose, now maybe it's because of the grants or because of what your all's grand plan is, and I don't know whether what it is or not, but you are gonna lose the mom and pops, and maybe you have a plan to replace them with bigger, more stronger mom and pops, or, but I'm telling you, you are gonna lose Helen, you might lose me, you might lose those guys, and you're gonna lose a lot that you already have, and what brings people to Main Street as it is.
Absolutely.
So I think you need to consider some of these things before you do something like the Flatiron Building, which is really not gonna benefit anyone right away.
And you know, as far as the mom and pops, I totally completely agree with you. And, you know, I hope you have an understanding of EDC here, like huge.
Of
Are
course,
we
I mean,
required
Mom, mom,
to?
myself.
But this is
do
very
whatever
scary
needs
to-
be done
Mom
to the
and
Flatiron
husband,
building?
but I-
Yeah, you are, you're the chiropractor, we know you.
We really are, you know,
Yeah.
and because I think downtown thrives, not in having, you know, Starbucks was coming great, whatever, but downtown thrives on those neat boutique places that are here now.
There's another issue that you have to take into account also. We were talking about $245,000 up there for however many spaces, worked out to about $6,000 a space up here.
Yeah.
This at $5 million and 65 spaces costs you $77,000 per parking.
We're not certain that it's $5 million though. That's
That's
just a
enough-
figure
that's-
that
But
Frank
you're
threw out
enforcing
there.
my point, you're
But
enforcing
you're
my
building a
point,
bridge.
the little people aren't gonna be there to see this happen.
So we pay, the town pays 200,000, but we lose we potentially lose all of our stores. That's what you're, that's what, I mean, that's what you're
And
saying.
you're not parking for a big old.
That's
house.
true.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly what he's saying, I understand that.
Okay, we're talking about losing spending 200-some thousand. We haven't put up a Flatiron building, we haven't closed Park Avenue. You could start on Park Avenue where you excavate, put in a wall, okay? With keeping one lane going up, we could go ahead and make Park Avenue one way, right off. Is that gonna kill any business?
No.
Okay, cause I think everybody would be in agreement with that.
I think everybody would like that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so hang on.
Park Avenue should be one way.
Then
So what?
let Barney
Okay,
finish.
yeah, let's
Let's let Barney
what
finish.
Barney's saying
So
here.
start with Park Avenue, make it one
Main
way.
Street businesses that-
We'll limit the construction to where the retaining wall
I
is
think that's about.
and where, the curb is.
Barney, you want your plan out?
No, that's all right.
Okay.
So does municipal parking.
We won't take away any parking spaces except for the,
He doesn't do anything, he don't like to cross that street.
we won't take any parking spaces.
And it's hard to go down those stairs.
We do one at a time.
Andrew,
It's
Andrew,
impossible.
Andrew.
It's
Let's
impossible
let
here
Barney,
with
let's
all
let
that's
Barney
going
finish
on.
here.
Start with Park Avenue. Make it one way. The only thing you take away is the 8, 9, 10 spaces that are parallel on Park Avenue,
Like,
on the north side of Park
Across
Avenue.
across the insurance.
Okay, that's the only thing you take away, all right? Small hint, there's always at least 20 spaces in the municipal lot, goes any time of day, any day of the week. I can assure you that, because I've been checking. So you take away those few spaces, you work from between the curb and where you're gonna put the retaining wall, you're not gonna take away any spaces up above. And you go ahead and put the retaining wall in, you go ahead and put the angle spaces on both sides of Park Avenue, very little disturbance. Now, you've just gained 20-some spaces.
You lost 8, but you gained.
A net gain of 20-some spaces.
You have to take away the 12 on Center Street because you closed.
No,
We haven't done
Center
Center Street. We're only on Park Avenue.
Park Avenue one way, so we're keeping the flow going.
Walk you through the project.
We have a, let me finish. We have a net gain of 20-some spaces, okay?
Right.
Now we can just